ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति सुपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतपथकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगणरघुनाथां विदं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सगणललिता शिविशाखां वितंश्च। ये कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांद राधा कांद नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमदे भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिधि नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दिनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यमीश्वरं। योऽन्ध प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसूक्तां सञ्जीवयति अखिलशक्तिधरसुधाम्नां। अन्यां च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणां नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं। जयदं सुहृदो पंगोर्मम मन्दमतिर्गति सर्वस्य पादाम्बुजो राधामदनमोहनं तमादिदेवं करुणानिधानं कमालवर्णं सुहृदावतारम् अपार संसार समुद्र सेतुं भजामहे भागवत स्वरूपं। परमानंद पाठाय प्रेम वर्षि अक्षराय दे सर्वदा सर्वसेव्याय श्रीकृष्णाय नमोस्तु मे। गुरुवे गौरचंद्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्ण भक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। हरे कृष्णा हरि ओम सत सत। So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, text 9 onwards. धर्मस्य हि अपवर्ग्यस्य नार्थो अर्थोऽयपकल्पते नार्थस्य धर्मैकान्तस्य कामो लाभाय हि स्मृतः। धर्मस्य हि अपवर्ग्यस्य नार्थो अर्थायोपकल्पते नार्थस्य धर्मैकान्तस्य कामो लाभाय हि स्मृतः। प्रभु एंड माता जी।
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
हरे कृष्णा।
धर्मस्य हेपवर्गस्य नार्थो अर्थायोपकल्पते नार्थस्य धर्मैकान्तस्य कामो लाभाय हि स्मृतः।
हरि बोल। ट्रांसलेशन।
All occupational engagements are certainly meant for the ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for the material gain. Furthermore, according to the sages, one who engages in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate such sense gratification. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupation service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. So here it said that dharmasya hi apavargasya. What is apavargasya means?
Higher
Yeah,
higher
ultimate
plan.
liberation. What is pavarga? What is pavarga?
Lower part.
Yeah. So how do you define it? What is pavarga and what is apavarga? Apavarga, we understand that it is ultimate liberation. What is pavarga?
going to the lower consciousness, probably.
Yeah, that's okay. But what exactly is Pavarga? Pavarga.
Mm.
Pa ba bhama.
Yeah.
You know, you have heard that?
Yes, probably.
Pa
Yes,
ba bhama. What is that? What does it mean?
it means power, Prabhuji.
Pavarga.
This the tongue, the base of the tongue is touched,
Can you
probably.
elaborate that? Pa ba bhama.
When your lips touch.
No, Prabhuji, pa, ba, bha means ba and bha, the upper ost and it's a bakara se dant ostam, Prabhuji. It's a
Okay, here it
Yeah.
means Pavarga means Pa means Parishram.
mm,
Everyone is going through this Parishram. Okay, we put in lot of effort. Parishram. If you want to do anything, nothing comes easily. We have to put in a lot of effort. So if you want to eat something, we have to cook food. We have to get groceries. We have to store it, and we have to take it, clean it. We have to cut it. We have to cook it. Lot of, then after eating, no, 2 hours it takes, and within 10 minutes we finish eating. Then after that again cleaning. Parishram, right? So everyone has to undergo this parishram. Pa. Then Fena, when we do lot of parishram efforts, Fena, foam comes in our mouth. Then Ba. Ba means Bandhan. Okay. This parishram for sense gratification will entangle you in this material world, Bandhan. Then Bha means fear, Bhaya. Okay. Even though we are putting a lot of effort, endeavor, and doing a lot of activities, we are always afraid. Why? Because what will happen to me? No, what will happen to my near and dear? What will happen to my wealth, my name, fame, my things, possessions? So always this bhaya is there. Then ultimately, then what is the last? Ma. Ma means mrityu. Mrityu. That is death. Ultimately, we have to go from here. Death. As sure as death, we say, no? As sure as death.
Yes, Prabhu, just give the feel of the, like you see the bull when he work hard, so the pain comes out from the mouth and the bandhan is there, then the fear of getting beaten is there.
Yeah.
And then
So like that, every living entity has to undergo this papa bhamama. So this is entanglement in this material. Okay. So if we take birth, we have to die also. So in between, we cannot sit idle. We have to do a lot of work. So when we do a lot of work, although we may enjoy for some time, but it causes a lot of hardships and inconveniences, isn't it? So this papa, so we have to be apavarga, opposite that. Whatever we are doing this now for our sense gratification. So all this dharma, religious activity should be for pleasing Krishna. Then it will become apavargasya, means for ultimate liberation. So the pavarga will keep us, entangle us in this material world. Apavarga will cause for our ultimate liberation. So that's why it is said that dharma should be done for ultimate liberation, not to get entangled in this material world. Okay, so that's what it says. So according to sages, one who is engaged in ultimate occupational. So what is ultimate occupational service? Atmendriya Pritivancha, Krishnendriya Pritivancha. Which we should do? Atmendriya Pritivancha. What is Vancha means? Desire, Agra. Okay. And Krishnendriya Pritivancha. Which is better?
which is make happy to Krishna, Krishnendra Priti.
Krishnendra. Atmendriya means for my senses. Priti. I want to satisfy my senses. And what will happen if you do that? will be entangled in this material world. So if we do Krishnendriya Pridhivancha, Krishnendriya means satisfying the senses of Lord Krishna, then we'll think that how we will be satisfied simply by satisfying Krishna's senses. We will be satisfied much, much more than what we do Atmendriya Pridhivancha. Simply by satisfying the senses of Krishna. Just like the example is given, when we pour water at the root of the tree, the whole tree gets nourishment. Similarly, when we supply food to the stomach, the whole body gets nourishment. Similarly, the proprietor, the controller, the master of all this prapancha, all this world is satisfied. His part and parcels will also be satisfied. Got it? So that's what here the sages, according to sages, it says. Sages are those personalities who are self-realized souls. Tattvadarshini, not like us, not ordinary people like us. So we have to follow in their footsteps. If you really want to get out of this material world from the material entanglement, we have to follow in the footsteps of great saintly personalities. Tattat karma pravartanat. Okay, we have to follow in their footsteps. So we have already discussed that pure devotional service to the Lord is automatically followed by perfect knowledge and detachment from material existence. But there are others who consider that all kinds of different occupational engagements, including those of religion, are meant for material gain. Most of us are, thinking that all this worship of the, worship procedures, the rituals that we are currently doing, going to temple, performing various ritualistic activities, everything is for our sense gratification. This is a misconception that we all have. So here it is said that we should never use the material gain to cultivate sense gratification. But usually we go to the temple, we ask for our own comfort and benefit, isn't it? We go to the temple, we do some archana, some pushpanjali or some offerings to the temple deities and ask in return, I want a good job, I want a good wife, I want a good husband, good children, money, name, fame, possessions, so on and so forth. This is our request. Isn't it? Most of us are going with that same intention. So that is not the purpose of religion. That is what it is said here. This is the opinion of the great personalities, sages. So it should never be used for material gain. It will come automatically. Why we have to ask for it? Just like when we work for 1 month in the office, automatically after 1 month, they will give a salary. Isn't it? We don't have to go and ask, keep asking every day, will I get salary? Will I get salary every day? Do we ask? No. Once 30 days are over, you get that pay. Except Jubi Mataji. She's getting arrears. Okay. She's getting in lot. Okay. Anyway, so we don't have to ask for material gains. According to our karma, we don't have to ask. Just like how miseries, happiness is coming, miseries are also coming without any invitation. So the general tendency of any ordinary man in any part of the world is to gain some material profit in exchange for religious or any other occupational service. So there's a general tendency. That is what is Prabhupada, making a point. So we all go and worship or pray to the Supreme Lord for some material gain, every one of us. Even in the Vedic literatures, for all sorts of religious performances, an allurement of material gain is offered, and most people are attracted by such allurements or blessings of religion. So in the Vedic literature also it is given that if you do this puja, you will get that. If you do that puja, you will get that. Different options, different processes are given for material gain. It's not that it is prohibited. It is only to encourage us to come to a higher level. We should not get stuck there. It is only to give us some, what you call, we are giving children, some toy and attracting them, like that. The Supreme Lord is also attracting us through, this means by giving us some material benefits. It's not, prohibited in the Vedic literature. It is there, but it is what happens? It is karma kanda. Karma kanda means whatever we do, we have to enjoy or suffer of that action. If you are doing good things, good reaction will come. If you are doing bad things, bad reaction will come. So this is karma kanda session. But the Supreme Lord wants us to love him unconditionally, ahaituki, without any expectation. That's pure love. That's what Krishna wants us to do. So for all sorts of religious performances, an allurement of material gain is offered. Just like, to children, okay, if you score this much mark, if you come first class, I'll get you a cycle, I'll get you this, I'll get you that. It's an allurement, so because they are so much attached to these toys and, cycles and motorcycle, car, this and that. So the father or mother will offer, oh, if you get good marks, this much marks, I will get you. At least for that sake, they will study. Similarly, God is also offering us. He's also bribing us. Isn't it? So in the Vedic literature, it is given that if you do this homa, this yajna, this puja, and whatever desires you have, it will be fulfilled. It's happening. But that is not the ultimate goal of human life. That is what we have to understand. So why are such so-called men of religion allured by material gain? Because material gain can enable one to fulfill desires, which in turn satisfy sense gratification. We want to satisfy our senses, so we need material gains. Because the senses are so strong, we cannot sit idle. And the most voracious senses out of all the senses, it is tongue. Isn't it? We cannot control the tongue. Two activities we are doing with the tongue. One is always murmuring. We cannot stop that. Okay. And another thing is always want to eat palatable food stuff. So this is just to satisfy our own senses. This cycle of occupational engagements includes so-called religiosity followed by material gain, and material gain followed by fulfillment of desires. Sense gratification is general way for all sorts of fully occupied men. But in the statement of Siddha Goswami, as per the verdict of Srimad Bhagavatam, this is nullified by the present sloka. So the worship for or approaching Supreme Lord for fulfilling our material desires is condemned here or nullified here in Srimad Bhagavatam through this particular verse. It's not that it is sinful activity. It is not a sinful activity. It's an activity that is enjoined in the scriptures. We can do that. But by doing such activities, we will not achieve the ultimate goal of human life. That is only the problem. That's why it is nullified here through this sloka by Siddha Goswami. One should not engage himself in any sort of occupational service for material gain only, nor should material gain be utilized for sense gratification. How material gain should be utilized is described as follows. So there is no problem in making money. We can make money. But how this money should be utilized, that is what is going to be explained in the next verse. That is what it says. So any points or any questions from this particular text? Anything? Any questions or comments? Okay, then
Why we have talked about ultimate liberation?
why?
Why we have talked about ultimate liberation? I mean, because Krishna Prem and we are not talking about
See, ultimate liberation means going back home, back to Godhead, to do loving devotional service to Supreme Lord. That's what, in Srimad Bhagavatam also it is again given. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yado bhakti radokshate ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasini. If the soul has to be satisfied, we have to do that unmotivated, uninterrupted, loving devotional service to that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then only this is done, or this is possible only on a liberated platform. So liberation is must. So within this material world, within the three modes of material nature, pure devotional service doesn't take place. Only on a liberated platform, we can do devotional service, pure devotional service. Okay, Prabhu?
Okay, Prabhu. So first we have to get liberated from the material, world.
Yeah. Now, of course,
That-
when we are performing bhakti, unconditionally, everyone is on a liberated stage. If you are doing bhakti not for my material gain, but to please Krishna, so I become on that platform. But when I am doing bhakti for my sense gratification, then we are still entangled in this material world. So devotees can be here in this material world, even on a liberated platform, if they are doing pure bhakti. Then after this particular lifetime, they will go back home, back to Godhead, where they will be engaging themselves in the loving devotional service of Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Kamasya nendriya predir labho jiveda yavatam jivasya tattva jitnyasa nartho yascheha karmabhi. Kamasya nendriya predir labho jiveda yavatam jivasya tattva jitnyasa nartho yascheha karmabhi. Jiveshri Mataji and Vivek Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Karmasya nendriya pridirlabho jiveda yavado jivesya tatta jijnasa narto yajna karma bhi.
Very good. Yes, Vivek Prabhu.
Life desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works.
Very good. Life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation. Since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth, nothing else should be the goal of one's life. So again, the same thing is emphasized here in a different way. So our desires should be only directed for his gratification, not for my gratification. Again, it is emphasized. Never be directed towards sense gratification of the self. But on the contrary, it should be directed for the sense gratification of the Supreme Personality of God. We have to please his senses. Rishikena, Rishikesha, Savanam, Bhakti Ruchyade. One should desire only a healthy life. Yes, we should always, pray that we should have a healthy life so that we can do devotional service perfectly and nicely for his pleasure. Since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth, what is our human life meant for? Human life is meant for athatho brahma jitnyasa. The animals cannot inquire. Can the animal inquire? The animals cannot inquire. Can we inquire? Yes, we can. We can ask questions. Who am I? Who is God? What's my connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Why I am in this position? Why I am ugly? Why I am, beautiful? Why somebody is very poor? Somebody is very rich. So all these questions we can ask. The animals and other living entities cannot ask this question. That's why the human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's work. So our goal should be to know who we are, who the Supreme Lord is, what's our connection, why we are suffering this material world, why some are enjoying, why this disparity, what is the ultimate goal of life, and how we can achieve that. So these are categorized in 3 formulas, 3 ways: Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana, which we have very elaborately explained in the first 3 verses of first canto, first chapter. Isn't it? Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana Jnana. So the whole Vedic literature is directly or indirectly discussing about this. Hence, our duty to learn this and follow that instruction, to know Sambandha, the relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the process to re-establish that relationship, and the ultimate goal, the Prayojana. So the completely bewildered material civilization is wrongly directed towards the fulfillment of desires in sense gratification. See, in most of the Vedic literatures, the Karmakanda section is predominant. But Srimad Bhagavatam cuts all these Karmakanda section and condemn those sections. It is not meant for human being, because by following the Karmakanda section, what happens? We are not going to achieve what we are supposed to achieve in the human form of life. So that's why even Vyasadeva says, of course, Narada Maharshi informs Vyasadeva, contempt, this is a cheating religion. Those religious norms and codes that doesn't take us toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead for engaging in pure loving devotional service, it's a cheating religion. That's what it says. Dharma Kaidava. Kaidava means cheating. Cheating religion. If it is not taking us towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead to do or to perform loving devotional service to Him. So all other types of instruction or rituals given in the scriptures are meant for sense gratification. That is condemned here by Siddha Goswami and Sukadeva Goswami. So in such civilization, in all spheres of life, the ultimate end is sense gratification. So it's very clear. In such civilization, in all spheres of life, the ultimate end is sense gratification. This is what we are doing generally. Okay, we are, हम लोग कुछ हटके है क्यों? We know the truth now. No, we are trying to practice. We are trying to implement these practices in our life slowly and gradually. We are also practicing. At least we have made one step towards that. Otherwise, even we are also born and brought up in that particular way. Our parents, our relatives, our friends tell us, you have to work hard, you have to study well, you have to get a good degree, you have to get a good job, then you should have a good life, family life, produce children, then they should also. So the same things going on, isn't it? Does anyone teach us that you should do devotional service or worship the Supreme Lord and try to get out of this material world? Is anyone teaching us? No, it's not. Nobody is teaching us. So the goal of life is self-realization or liberation from this material existence. No one has taught us. It is due to some sukriti or some compassion of Vaishnavas that now we know that this is the goal of life. So we are trying to imbibe this and cultivate this knowledge and trying to practice in our day-to-day life. We are just trying. How far we'll be successful, we don't know. But by the compassion of the senior Vaishnavas, definitely we are progressing. That's for sure. It is not the same person who, we were, say, about 10 years back or 20 years back. There is a lot of improvement. And at least theoretically, we accept that, we know that. Although practically, we may not be able to apply it 100%, but slowly and gradually we are trying, since we know the theory. So in politics, social service, altruism, philanthropy, and ultimately in religion, or even in salvation, the very same kind of sense gratification is ever increasingly predominant. In all these areas, as Prabhupada is telling, politics, social service, altruism, philanthropy, even in dharma, religion, even in salvation, even in liberation, the people's desire is to get out of the material anxieties, not with the purpose of serving the Supreme Lord. So liberation without the aim of serving the Supreme Lord is not correct, is not recommended. That's why it is said that even in salvation. So the very same kind of sense gratification is ever increasingly predominant. In the political field, the leaders of men fight with one another to fulfill their personal sense gratification. We know that the politicians fight each other every day. For what? To competing each other to take their place. So as soon as the voters are dissatisfied in their own sense of satisfaction, they dethrone the leaders. It's a everyday case. We are seeing this day in and day out, such happenings, such cases. The leaders must always disappoint the voters by not satisfying their senses. Same is applicable in all other fields. No one is serious about the problems of life. So what are the problems of life? Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi. No one is interested. No one is teaching us. After death, there is another life. Is anyone teaching us? No, no one is teaching us. And when we do sinful activities, what is our destination? No one is teaching us. So even those who are on the path of salvation decide to become one with the absolute truth and decide to commit spiritual suicide for sense gratification. So the liberation with the aim of merging with the Supreme Brahman is also a spiritual suicide. We are losing our individuality. Okay, it's a spiritual suicide. We can never lose our individuality. Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna categorically says, Natvevaham jadunasham natvam neme janadiva. You were there, you are here, you will be there. So eternally we are there. Individual soul can never lose the identity. So if at all we try to lose our individuality, trying to merge with the Supreme Brahman after liberation, what it is said, it is a spiritual suicide. So, but the Bhagavatam says that one should not live for sense gratification. One should satisfy the senses only in so much as required for self-preservation. For a healthy life, for self-preservation, we can, indulge in sense gratification, and not for sense gratification, not for merely sense gratification, for self-preservation and good health. Because the body is made of senses, which also require a certain amount of satisfaction. There are regulative directions for satisfaction of such senses. So under regulation, we can satisfy our senses. Under regulation, not whimsically. Suppose the child likes chocolate very much. Okay, he's asking, his father is giving one chocolate, asking another chocolate second, asking another chocolate third, and fourth, the father will say, stop, that's enough. Your quota is over for today. You cannot have any more. Why? Why we are not supplying more? It's not good for his health. It's not good for his teeth. It's not good for his existence in totality. So we regulate. Similarly, our senses also should be regulated. So we can have such sense gratification on a regulated way. That's what it is mentioned here. So, but the senses are not meant for unrestricted enjoyment. So unrestricted enjoyment means we'll have to suffer. For example, marriage or the combination of a man with a woman is necessary for progeny, but it's not meant for sense enjoyment. In the absence of voluntary restraint, there is propaganda or family planning, but foolish men do not know that family planning is automatically executed as soon as there is a search after the absolute truth. Seekers of the absolute truth are never allured by unnecessary engagements in sense gratification, because the serious students seeking the absolute truth are always overwhelmed with work of researching the truth. So when we regulate, if we don't have to undergo any artificial way of family planning and all. That's what Prabhupada is trying to tell us. So under regulation, everything is possible. Seekers of the absolute truth are never allured by unnecessary engagements in sense gratification, because the serious students seeking the absolute truth are always overwhelmed with the work of researching the truth. In every sphere of life, therefore, the ultimate end must be seeking after the absolute truth. And that sort of engagement will make one happy, because he will be less engaged in varieties of sense gratification. And what that absolute truth is explained as well. So when we are focusing on inquiring about the supreme absolute truth, okay, automatically our other engagement, such as the sense gratification, will slowly come down. So we will not have any problem, okay, trying to by force restraining our senses. So we have to we have to show interest in something higher thing. So automatically the lower things will take a back seat. So that is how we can regulate our senses. So if we let loose our senses, if we don't worship our Supreme Personality of Godhead, if we don't show interest in religious matters, then what happens? Our senses are let loose, and we will try to satisfy the senses whimsically in unrestricted way, which will lead to total deterioration of our material existence. So we should have interest in something higher that is related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We should chant the holy name of the Supreme Lord. We should listen to his leelas, kathas, and we should discuss matters relating to him. We should discuss about his pure devotees and different activities of pure devotees with the Supreme Lord. Okay? And we should do other types of devotee service like Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam, Mandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam, like that. 9 types of devotee services are. We should engage them, then automatically we can restrain other activities. So that's what here Prabhupada very clearly mentions. So any comments or any points?
No, Prabhuji. We can
Go to the next verse, 11.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. Vadanti tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaniti sadyate. Vadanti tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaniti sadyate. Okay, Mayuri Mataji Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Vadanti tattvavid tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaniti shabdyate.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji's translation. Learned transcendentalist who knows absolute truth call the non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan or Bhagwan.
So it's a very important sloga for us, for all of us. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Advaita. Here it is mentioned. Where it is Advayam. Okay, non-dual. Who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagwan. So, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has three aspects. That is what is given here. So, that Supreme Lord, Absolute Truth, is known as Brahman, that is not complete, and Paramatma, that's also not complete, and Bhagwan. Bhagwan is the complete aspect. In Bhagwan, Brahman is also there, Paramatma is also there. In Brahman, only Brahman is there. It's an incomplete understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Paramatma, both Brahman and Paramatma are there. But in Bhagwan, all the three aspects are there. So the ultimate understanding is Bhagwan. So these three aspects makes the Bhagwan complete, the Supreme Absolute Truth. So the Absolute Truth is both subject and object, and there is no qualitative difference there. Therefore, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan are qualitatively one and same. Same substance is realized as impersonal Brahman by the students of Upanishads, as localized Paramatma by the Hiranyagarbhas or the yogis, and as Bhagwan by the devotees. So, it's very clearly mentioned there, the same absolute truth realized in different ways by the students and by the yogis and by the devotees. Ultimately, which is the highest? The highest is Bhagwan realization. In other words, Bhagwan or the personality of Godhead is the last word. Is the last word of the absolute truth, because it has the other two aspects also. Paramatma is the partial representation. See, as I told you, it is not complete, it is incomplete. Paramatma is a partial representation of the personality of Godhead. And impersonal Brahman is the glowing effulgence of the personality of Godhead, as the sun rays are to the sun god. So the impersonal Brahman is the effulgence that is emanating from the body of the Supreme Lord. Paramatma is a partial representation of the Supreme Lord. Bhagwan is the complete understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth. So the Jnanis, they go for Brahman realization. The yogis, they go for Paramatma realization. Bhaktas, they want Bhagwan. So which is the topmost?
Bhagwan.
Bhagwan, isn't it? It's not that all others are wrong. It is incomplete. Brahmedi, Paramatmeti, Bhagwan iti sadhyate. The example is given just like the sun raised to the sun god. Less intelligent students of either of the above school sometimes argue in favor of their own respective realization. But those who are perfect seers of the absolute truth know well that the above three features of the one absolute truth are different perspective views seen from different angles of vision. These are all different perspective views from different angles. So as it is explained in the first sloka of the first chapter of Bhagavatam, Supreme Truth is self-sufficient, cognizant, and free from the illusion of relativity. The Supreme Truth doesn't depend on anything or anyone. We have to depend on many factors, many people, many things. But Supreme Absolute Truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is self-sufficient. It doesn't have to depend on anyone else, any other things, any third party or any circumstances. He is Atma Ram, self-sufficient. Cognizant. What is cognizant means?
Prabhu, who knows everything, means who's
Yeah. Cognizant means full of knowledge.
full of knowledge.
He is full of knowledge. It's nothing that he doesn't. Everything is known to him. And free from illusion of relativity. So what is relativity? What is relative truth? What is absolute truth? Can anyone give some example? relative truth and absolute truth?
Shadow of tree in the water.
What is that?
Shadow of tree in the water.
Shadow of tree in the water. Yes. The shadow is reflection. It's not original. The trees on the water, reflected on the water is just a shadow only. It's not original. But how do you explain that? It's a perverted reflection. We understand. How can you explain relative truth and absolute truth?
Absolute, Prabhuji, like
You-
it will
you
not
are-
be changed.
what you said is just like an illusion. It is an example for illusion. We mistake the shadow as a real tree. Urdhamolam adashyakam ashwatam pravaravyam. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, it's a perverted reflection, of the same tree in the spiritual world. When it comes to the material world, it is a perverted reflection. So it's an example for illusion. But how can you give an example? What example can you give for relative truth and absolute truth? Some example. Okay, let me tell you. Parag Prabhu, you have 1,000 rupees with you? You have?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes. It's a truth or absolute truth?
It's a truth only, Prabhuji.
It's a truth. Why it's not absolute truth?
Because today is with me, tomorrow with somebody else, and maybe government closed that one. You never know.
So when you spend it, is gone. So
It's
it is
gone.
not there with you eternally. Okay. So it's a relative truth because now today it is there with you 1,000 rupees. Tomorrow you may spend it. So it's not an absolute. Absolute truth means eternally you should be having that 1,000 rupees. There should be no change. Relative truth changes. Absolute truth never changes. My father, so and so person, it's absolute truth or relative truth?
Relative.
Relative truth. He is not my father for all my lives. But Supreme Lord is my father eternally. It's an absolute truth.
Another example, Prabhuji, maybe like we and our body, like our Atma is like absolute and our body is like.
100% spirit. That is eternal. But body is changing. So the body thinking that this body is going to be there eternally with us. That's also again illusion, and it's a relative truth. It's only for this lifetime. And another thing here, it is mentioned that in the relative world, the knower is different from the known, but in the absolute truth, both the knower and the known are one and the same thing. How can you explain this, Parag Prabhu? In the relative world, so I'll read again once again. Okay, here it is. In the relative world, the knower is different from the known. But in the absolute truth, both the knower and the known are one and the same.
Same.
Can you give some example?
So here, Prabhuji, we are the body and the soul are two different things. So when we say it's me, my name is Parag. So this name of this body, so known and knower, Prabhuji, the two different person. The person who is knowing this body is Atma, is different than the body. But in absolute truth, the Bhagwan, he and his body is the same. So no, there is no difference between knower and the knower. So there are no two different things, Prabhuji.
So Nama and Nami are the same.
Same.
In the absolute world, Nama and Nami are the same. Okay. Krishna, the name, and Krishna, the person, identical. Here, the name Parag and the self, the soul, are not identical. Okay. Another thing, the word water and the substance water are two different things, not identical. When I say water, 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 will my thirst be quenched? No. But in the spiritual realm, in the absolute realm, what are the name and what are the substance is one. Just like Krishna, the person, Krishna, the name are identical. So anything related to Krishna, Krishna's name, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's attributes, Krishna's paraphernalia, Krishna's form, everything is identical, non-different. So this is the difference. Is it clear? So in the relative world, the knower is the living spirit or superior energy, whereas the known is inert matter or inferior energy. See here it's again further explained. In the relative world, the knower is the living spirit or superior energy, the Atma. Whereas the known is inert matter or what is known? We know only this body. We identify you with your Sthula Sharira, not as Atma. That is inert or inferior energy, Prakriti. Therefore, there is a duality of inferior and superior energy. Whereas in the absolute realm, both the knower and the known are of the same superior energy. So, the knower and the known. Similarly, the spirit and the body, that is the covering of the body, are of superior and inferior energy. There's a duality there. There's a difference there. In the spiritual world, there is no difference between the body and the soul, the mind, and intelligence, nothing like that. Everything is spirit. Everything is Satchidananda. But here, only the soul is Satchidananda, but the body is Jada. Isn't it? It's material. So there are three kinds of energies of the supreme energetic. There is no difference between the energy and energetic, but there is a difference of quality of energies. There is a difference of quality in energies. The absolute realm and the living entities are of the same superior energy, but the material world is of inferior energy. Prakriti is of inferior energy. The living being in contact with the inferior energy is illusion. So how we are illusion? How we mistake this body to be ourselves? Because when we come in contact with the inferior energy, we get illusioned. Then we'll be in the duality, thinking he belongs to the inferior energy. Therefore, there is the sense of relativity in the material world. In the absolute, there is no such sense of difference between the knower and the known. And therefore, everything there is absolute. So how nicely Prabhupada clarified this point, made us understand the difference between superior energy, inferior energy, knower and the known, the duality. Very nicely, with the example, yes, explain this. Yes, so we have finished. How many? 3? 9,
3 verses.
9, 10, 11. Okay. So I'll stop here. Vancha kalpada rubhesya kripa sindhubhya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananda Koti Vaishnava ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. I'll stop here.